Thank you, Iveliz, for joining us for the Ese Teatro podcast show. I think this will be our episodio tres. But yeah, thank you for joining and coming on. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do?
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's great to be here. I am, well, my name is Iveliz Martel, as you said. I'm from Chile. I came to Seattle because I wanted to get my master's degree, my MFA in acting. So that's what I came here, and that's how I met with you guys, the members of Ese Teatro. I'm Latina, and that's why I was also looking for my community, and looking for people who I can relate in terms of culture and background and stories. And I used to work as a radio journalist back in my country. I studied journalism, then I got a master's degree in science journalism. Then I went back to my country and I worked as a radio journalist, but focusing on science journalism, like covering science. And it doesn't mean, I always say, it doesn't mean that I know about science, because I don't. Okay. But the whole point of it is that you know how to, or you have a better sense of how to translate what scientists do to the general audience. So that's what I did before coming here. And at the same time that I was doing journalism, I was always doing theater, like community theater back in my country. And at some point after I studied science journalism at Texas A&M in Texas, I got a scholarship to go there and study there. And after that, I went to New York with whom was my partner at the time. And when I was in New York, I studied a conservatory program in acting at a studio there in New York. And then I auditioned to come to grad school, and I came here. And that's why I'm here.
Okay. So you, why Seattle and UW specifically? Is that just sort of you applied a number of places and then you got accepted here and that's how you ended up here?
Yes. So when I decided to go to grad school, because I really wanted the training, like I wanted not just to have the degree saying that I'm an actor, but also like actually having the training and learning the skills that an actor needs. I auditioned for a bunch of schools, and there is here in the U.S. there is an event where you, as a prospective student, you go and you audition for like a lot of schools at the same time. So recruiters from all over the country, from different schools from all over the country, they go to that event and they see students, and if they like you, then they invite you to audition. And to apply. And then you go through the selecting process.
Okay.
But that event is a first step for them to know you and to invite you to audition for their particular schools. So I did that. I went to New York and auditioned for all the schools. Not the big ones like Yale and Juilliard and NYU and I don't know, all the fancy schools in California. They do their separate processes. It's very different. And you have to pay to audition for them.
Oh, wow.
So, and I didn't want to spend like hundreds of dollars like auditioning for schools that I knew that probably they were not going to select me. So I did this other thing instead, and that's how I ended up here.
And now, is there a selection process for those type of schools? Like, really, is it competitive and difficult? Okay, so it's like you have to have all of the skill, talent, and money, to be selected.
Yes, and depending on what they are looking for, like many people told me, like, well, there are schools that are looking for people already with the skills because they want some people have their some schools they have their own theaters and they have their seasons, and they want students who can fit in those plays or the season that they have in mind. And they already have a good acting level or like skills that are already very good.
Okay.
Other schools are just looking for your money, and other schools are looking for like maybe more to be more inclusive. So it really depends. Other schools are looking for people who look in a particular way, and they know they can market in the future as alumni because they are going to be movies and TV shows and like big productions, because that's going to attract more students in the future. So it's a bunch of different things.
Okay.
The reason why I picked UW, I decided to come to UW was because I liked the curriculum. The financial aid package was good. And also it was like in a city, with an actual city and not in the middle of nowhere. Because my previous experience when I was studying science journalism at Texas A&M, that was a college town. And I didn't want that again. I don't have a car. I didn't have a car then. So I didn't want to be living in a place where I would need a car. Even though here you kind of need a car, but like you can survive.
Yeah. So I'm curious about the science journalism, and was that just because you went, like you got a scholarship from A&M and you went there, and sort of they're very, science agricultural driven, or was that sort of an interest of yours to begin with already?
So I got first, before applying to different schools to study science journalism, I got back in my country a Fulbright grant. And when you get a Fulbright grant, they help you throughout the application process. So they kind of negotiate with the schools what was the financial aid that they are going to offer you. So I picked Texas A&M again because they were offering good financial aid, and also because I was already a journalist. I didn't want to learn the journalistic skills. I already knew them. I wanted to get a little bit more closer to science than like different, like some of my classmates, at that time they were like astronomers or engineers or like English majors who knew their field very well and wanted to learn to communicate those skills or knowledge. That wasn't my case. I already had worked as a journalist for a few years already, and I didn't need that. What I wanted was to get more comfortable with scientific terms and like how to talk to scientists and learn what do they do and how they do and how knowledge is created. So that's why I went to that program.
Okay. And what were some of the highlights or things that you learned that you keep with you?
I think for me, understanding the scientific process of like the process of doing science or like researching topics, and how everything starts with the curiosity of a scientist who says like, oh, maybe because of a life experience, maybe because like one of their relatives were sick, and then that triggered that curiosity they had, and they became a biologist or like a molecular whatever, because they wanted to really like advance the knowledge in that specific field so they could help people with particular problems, or whether because they were curious since they were kids and they were always interested in the moon and they want to know more about the moon, and then they have this curiosity, and then they realize that there are like hundreds of scientists researching about the moon, and then they have a particular question about like, oh, the glow of the moon is this color because of this or because of that, and they start like researching that. So understanding how the process is, and sometimes it's very frustrating because they don't get the results they were expecting.
Yeah.
And always being like fighting to get published in different journals, and to always be researching and be publishing and trying to get their research and their papers published.
Or funding for
and
their research.
Funded,
yeah.
more importantly, yes, funded is a lot of work. And also when I talk to my mom or my family, they are always like, I don't understand how we have become so far as a civilization. Like I bet like the like some entities who live outside this planet are helping us with this and
move us along.
And before starting this, I was like, yeah, probably like it is impossible that we humans have become this far. And then when you start like learning the process and how much research humans do, then you understand how knowledge start accumulating. And that's how we have phones and TVs and internet, is because little and medication and treatments is because little things, little discoveries have been adding up to where we are now.
I love that.
Yeah, so that was the thing that I kept with me the most.
Yeah. And so now acting, how, why acting? What is it about acting that you enjoy and that you love, and sort of what are your goals or plans for that career?
I always wanted to be, I think now I look back to when I was a kid. I think you know, when you're a kid and you start like formulating what do you want to do with yourself or what do you want to become. I when I was a kid, I think I never had it, or I never said it out loud. But I wanted to become, since I was a kid, I wanted to become an actor because I spent my afternoons with my grandmother watching Mexican soap operas. So I would come back from school and have my lunch, and then we would spend like 1 or 2 hours watching whatever the soap opera, the Mexican soap opera that they were like showing on TV, las telenovelas that they were showing on TV. And I was like, I've loved it. And I loved it that the same human, the same person, the same actor that in this telenovela was a lawyer, then could be a doctor. And I was so fascinated by the fact that they could be so many things without having to go to college.
Yes.
So that's where that desire and curiosity came from the Mexican telenovelas.
Okay.
And that's what and you know, they are very dramatic and they are very big, and nothing is in the middle. Everything is very good or very bad.
Right.
Everything is white or black, or you're like an innocent lady, or you're the evil woman.
Right.
And I think that translates in my acting. Like in general, I'm very, very big, like too big sometimes. But
you mean like your style of acting?
My style of acting. Yes. My issues. I struggle sometimes with realism. Because I find it too boring.
Yeah.
In the sense that there are platforms that do realism better than theater, I think, which is TV and film.
Oh.
I think in theater you don't need to be natural. You need to be real, but not natural.
That's interesting. So you need,
yeah, and it's a fine line.
So like, for instance, that's where you might have TV actors, you might resemble more of or gravitate more of like that. Because in TV or in television, you can be that way.
Well, not in Mexican soap operas.
Right.
In Mexican soap operas, they are all big. But and in soap opera, telenovelas in general, here in every country. But on TV and film, when you're an actor, the thing that you have to learn to do is to do less. Just to be there and work with the volume you have. Like, this is the volume we are talking right now. And you don't need to be loud because you're not talking to the people who are there at the back of the theater that need to hear you.
Yeah, you don't have to project.
You don't have to project. So, like, you can be more natural when you are doing TV and film because you don't need to push to be heard or to be seen.
But you like being big and projecting.
Yes.
And
yes. And I also like the challenge of being small or being just like who you are. I think it's a beautiful challenge, and the key is how you can be flexible. How can you be both when you need it?
Yeah.
How can you be big or real when you're on stage, and how can you be just natural when you are on camera?
And how do you do that? How do you navigate through that?
To be honest, I haven't done much on camera work as an actor.
Is that something that you're interested in?
I am interested because of the challenge.
Yeah.
I think it's training. Is training. Like, that's what I wanted to study an MFA, because I wanted the training. I wanted to learn how to work with my voice, work with my body, understanding characters. Every character has an emotional, as humans.
Yes.
An emotional life, an intellectual, mental life, and a physical life. So I wanted to. All these are things that I didn't know before. I went into study acting, and I wanted to learn that. And I think that's why I feel like sometimes people think that acting is really easy. You just go and say lines and act feelings, or emotions, and I think it cannot be as far. Like, that's not.
Oh, you're absolutely right. That's one thing that I learned just working with as a teatro, and when you're working with artists and actors, and even just watching Monica and a lot of her work, and how much you give of yourself, and you put into it. And being in that moment and everything, bringing your emotions, invoking them when you're not feeling it, right? Or maybe you're having a bad day. And I just think, oh my gosh, sometimes I think I feel lazy because that's so much. And then you all turn around and you go to like your night job or your other day job or something like that, right? So I have definitely learned everything behind it, and because that's what I'm always so curious about, how things work, the behind the scenes, and people also. So do you think that, or is your goal in, like, I don't know, have you ever done street theater? Is it your goal to stay with, like, working with big companies to eventually go on to television, or is it all of it?
I think it at this moment it's a little bit of everything, and I'm really trying to let control go and let life tell me where to go, because I'm not from this country, so I have a lot of constrictions in terms of how long I can stay working. So Seattle is not the place to do TV and film. Like, there nothing happening here.
You would have to go to California or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And there is theater, but theater, as usual, is struggling, and companies are closing, and theaters are closing. So I think that there are a lot of decisions involved, like where you want to live, and where the work is.
Yeah.
And also where you have your community.
Yeah.
I think I've been staying here because, and I think the more I stay in Seattle, the harder it gets to leave, because you start like making connections and finding people that think like you and want to do things like you want, and you start finding your community.
Yeah.
The dream would be to be in a place, in a city where there is work and there is community.
Yes.
But that takes time.
Yeah.
It takes years.
Uh-huh.
And I don't have that time because I'm an international student. So I'm really trying to figure out what's next. But right now is like trying to work here as much as I can and create community. Yeah. So that I can have work.
Well, it's also a really healthy way to live too, to get through sort of not being in your homeland, right? And I, coming from Southwest, and I still consider like myself to be a Southwesterner, even though I've been out here for years. And you're absolutely right. Everything that you described, it's like you long for your community, your culture, sort of the familiarity of that and where you come from. But then this curiosity and interest to go and explore and meet new people who, like you mentioned, might be a little bit different like you, might have different interests, but maybe the same. Mm-hmm. And that's where sort of you all connect. But yeah, that'll be interesting to just see where life takes you.
And and there's so many people in this same kind of position or situation. And I consider myself very lucky because, like, I'm here and so far I've been able to sustain myself. But I don't know, the other day I was on the train, mm-hmm. and there was a guy who came into the train. He spoke only Spanish. He didn't speak English. And he was coming from Venezuela, and he just had arrived here in the U.S. 15 days ago.
Wow. He
didn't have a place to stay. He was asking for money on the train. He was asking for money in Spanish, uh-huh. so nobody understood. Uh-huh. Me and another person understood, so we gave him something. But, like, that's an extreme situation.
Yeah.
And beyond all that, I so far have a country to which I can go back if things don't work for me here.
Right.
But people like from Venezuela, or from other countries that are in crisis right now, they don't, even if they want.
Yes.
They don't have a country where they can go because there is nothing there for them. Mm-hmm. So those are situations where you don't have anything. Like, you don't have a community. You came here to survive, to continue living in this planet.
Yes.
And you have nothing. You don't even speak the language. So that's challenging.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I try to keep telling myself, that within all the constrictions that I have, I'm still very lucky and privileged.
Yeah. Thankfulness and being grateful is that's a way to look at it. It's not always easy to do that, and so that's just really wonderful that you have that perspective. Because you're right, it's challenging. We forget sometimes that you have people that come to this country and other countries, mm-hmm. also, right?
Yes.
Great migrations. And they can't go back home even if they wanted to.
Yes.
And some of them, because it's not safe or for whatever reasons, and so there's not that home anymore, yet wherever they move forward, that's not home either. And that's a difficult place to be in, I imagine.
Yes.
To try to create home someplace, and at some point when you're not in some transitory state, you know?
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up, and just kind of helps us who were born in this country and who stay in this country to kind of have some perspective and be grateful.
Yeah, because also, like, I feel like the experience, like being a Latina who wasn't born here, but who wants to live here, because little by little I realized that my community is here. Like, people back home, if they still remember me, they see me as a journalist. They don't see me as an actor.
Oh, interesting.
So my acting community is here.
Yes. Like you have these two worlds that you came from, or that you're a part of.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
So I think, like, the experience of a Latina coming to this country at my age, like I wasn't born here, and the experience of a Latina or Latino or Latinx being born here is different.
Oh, very different.
Very different. And the struggles are different. And like the identity crisis that we all might have are different as well. And sometimes I might have more in common with somebody who came to this country from Korea than that wasn't born here and is struggling with language, is struggling with paperwork and visa and how to stay in this country, how to work, more than with a Latino, Latina who was born here.
Yeah, that's so true.
And so there are a lot of pieces of being in a place that is not home that influence somebody's wanting to stay here or wanting to leave and find another place.
Yeah. Well, and that's such a great point, and I'm thankful that you bring up, because, and that was another thing that sort of also brought me to Ese Teatro, because Rose, you know, she's from Peru, and she did like a lot of her street theater. She had like Chicano, Chicana, and connections, and so just realizing how, and then the, you know, other members of the group coming together, and even though we're all Latina, right, at this point, we all come from such different cultural backgrounds, all of us. I mean, Monica and I may be similar, but I feel like I was a little bit more country, coming from country than Monica. And so, yeah, that's a great point, and just the different struggles, but still a lot of similarities too in certain ways. The other thing I wanted to ask you about is,
I think like the language, whether you, like, if you were born here, whether you speak Spanish or not, but like the language and the music, the food, the relationship with your family, the importance of your family. I think we can all relate to that.
Yes.
As Latino, I think, or Latinx, I think we can, beyond whether you were born or here or not, I think we can speak a common language in terms of affection and the way we relate to each other.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a great point. And then I'm just going to switch gears a little bit and talk about sort of going back to, you know, we're talking about theater and your work and things here. And what was that like in Chile? So you've done some work, maybe, I know you mentioned not so much there back home, but you were involved maybe in the scene a little bit. And so what was it like there? What are the differences?
I think, like, in Chile, there is not much of an industry. I mean, plays are produced, but if you're a company or a director, like, everybody depends on the grants, on funding from the government. so if you don't get the money, it's really hard for you to produce anything. You don't get one of the grants that are, I mean, after the pandemic and all that is, if before the pandemic was a struggle, after the pandemic, like culture is not a priority. Theater depends heavily in Chile on the grants from the government.
Okay.
And in terms of TV, I think there used to be more TV, like telenovelas produced in Chile. And I think less and less that's also not happening anymore. Like it's cheaper to buy telenovelas, even from Turkey. Like in Chile, you can, like, I don't know.
Really?
People are so into Turkish telenovelas.
Really?
Yes. And I don't know.
I'm
like,
going to have to check them out now.
Yes. And they are like Mexican telenovelas, but slower. And they do all this, like, I don't know, Abraham, and I don't know, all these biblical things, stories that they transform them into a telenovela.
Really? In Espanol?
Yes, in Espanol. They put they double it, like they...
yes.
Yeah.
What do you call that? The...
voiceover? I don't know.
Okay. A dub.
Okay. They dub it. Yeah, well. So it's cheaper to just buy something that is being already produced and is ready to be broadcast than producing the whole thing. And also, like, there is not a system, like, again, like an industry here. If you wanna work on camera, you need to have an agent, and that agent sends you to auditions, because that agent has connections with casting directors. In Chile, that's like you get to audition because somebody recommended you, because you are super pretty and maybe you're a model, and it doesn't matter how talented you are. If you're pretty, really pretty, your chances are high.
Yeah.
And in terms of film, in the last few years, there have been more film produced. Like 2 of them won an Oscar at some point. But it really, again, it depends on funding them. Yeah. And usually there are more and more co-productions with other countries. So you have, they do this, I don't know, this co-production between Chile and Spain, and so you have actors, half of the actors are from Chile and half of the actors are from Spain. But that's just little compared to what happens here. There you don't have agents, casting directors. There are like a few, and they are the ones who manage the whole little industry. So it's really different.
What about the style of plays?
I think that theater in Chile is more influenced by European theater, because during the dictatorship, many actors and artists left the country, had to leave, because of the political situation and because they were being persecuted and killed. So they had to go to Europe. Many of them went to Europe, and then they absorbed all the European ways of doing theater. And then when the dictatorship ended, they went back to Chile, and I think all that got impregnated into the theater making world in Chile. So it's very different. I think it's way more creative than here. I think it's not just, there are a lot of what is called devising theater companies that create their work as an ensemble, as a collective, and not necessarily from a script. Like here you have a script and then you produce that script. There are more companies there that they don't have a script. They create the play from scratch. which is something that it happens here too.
Yeah.
Not as much in Seattle, but it happens here in the US. But I think, like, I don't know, I feel like in Chile you won't see the level of production that you see here at, I don't know, Seattle Rep or like ACT or a Broadway show.
Yeah.
You won't see that because there is no money to do
right.
that.
The
spend
level
like
of budgeting. Yeah.
like thousands of dollars on a set. There is no money for that. But I feel that there is a little bit more passion in it. I think there is a little bit more heart. Because it's not an industry.
Mm-hmm.
The economic need of earning money with it is not that evident.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that they are not going to make money out of selling tickets.
Right. You're doing it for the, like you mentioned, the passion and the love of it.
And hoping that people is going to go and see it.
Right, and appreciate the work of it. Yeah.
But here, you want to sell tickets.
Yeah.
Because you need the money.
Right.
Because it's an industry.
Right.
And as any industry, it needs to be profitable.
Yeah.
You don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
And in Chile, because nobody funds plays, so all the money that you get is the money from the government, and the government is not going to require you to sell a particular amount of tickets.
Yeah.
The government hopefully just wants you to do the thing if they accept your application and your and what you're proposing.
Okay.
So there is like more passion, more more heart.
Yeah, I love that. So tell me about the work you're doing now. What are you in? What's next?
So now I've been understudying 2 plays, children's plays. So I've been working as an understudy, which has been something new for me to learn how to do it at a professional level. So if, for those of you who don't know, an understudy is the person who has to cover, like in case any of the actors of the primary cast gets sick, in particular after the pandemic. Then if they get sick, you have to... and actually, I'm always checking my phone now because I'm like, I'm on call.
I could be called at any moment. Yes. On call.
I just remembered that I'm on call.
Yes.
Well, so you can get called to go and have to perform in the place of the actor in case they get sick.
Yes.
So I'm covering 2 tracks right now of a kid's play, and so you have to learn your lines. Well, they pay you for that.
Yes.
Like they pay you. You have to learn the lines, and you have to learn what we call the blocking, which is like what the directors said was the way the actors were going to move and what they were going to do on stage. You have to learn that, and they give you a costume, and in case somebody gets sick, so you have to go on and play that role, which is challenging in many ways because you don't have the rehearsals that the primary cast have. Like, it depending on the theater, sometimes you get into the process during what they call tech, which is when they put the lights, the sounds, and all the tech that a play involves.
Yes.
So as an understudy, you get into the room at that point, or as in this case, you get earlier in the process when they are starting to rehearse the play, and you take notes about everything that is happening. But by observing, it's really hard to get all the information and all you are supposed to do in your brain.
Right.
Because moving, at least for me and for many actors, is the way to learn and to memorize and to get the story and everything in your body. So when you're an understudy, you have to do it by yourself. But at the same time, I'm very, very grateful because as an actor, I just want to be in the room.
Yeah.
I want to be in the room. I'd rather be doing, like, being understudying and being learning from the processes of other actors, watching the director what she or he does, watching how the actors receive the notes and adjust, and what their processes are, the questions they ask. All that is learning. So I'm very, very grateful just for being in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, just being in the room is what I want, instead of having to be working as whatever, doing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be in the rehearsal room than in another place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a hard job, but I'm very grateful for it.
So do you, so you're understudying now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you usually have to look ahead to see other opportunities that you want to work in, other theaters or like roles that you want to play, and start planning like a year out? Or do you just kind of sort of whatever comes up and who contacts you, or how does it kind of work?
No, it's and I was thinking myself, oh Lord, I don't know how long I can do this really. Because like you get like a gig, you get a job, and then that lasts 2 months, and then you are into uncertainty again.
Yeah.
And so now I have to be thinking. Now I have to be thinking of the fall and the winter and the spring next year, because those plays are cast now.
Yes.
So if I don't get anything, that means that the whole year is empty.
Yeah.
So it's really, really tough.
Right.
It's stressful. And just because when you think like, okay, I'm good for like 4 months now.
Yeah.
Then like those 4 months
go by quickly.
So quickly. And then you're in the uncertainty again.
Uh-huh.
So it's hard.
Uh-huh.
It's hard. And that's why so many actors, they have a day job.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's hard to do both. Like try to do professional theater and try to do and get
work
money
on the side. Yes. Yeah. I see that so much, and that's why I said it. It's like, oh my goodness, some of these people, like when we had Two Big Black Bags and Barro and just some of the projects that I've been involved with since I've been with SA, and you see people coming from like their regular day jobs, and some of them have other careers.
Yes.
And then they're coming in the evening to act for like, could possibly be there till 10 or 11 at night. I mean, it really is, like you mentioned, you have to have a passion or a love for that work.
Yes.
Just because of how our system is set up for that line of work here. And so what role are you playing in Peter Rabbit? Or where are you understudying? Sorry.
Yes. I'm understudying 2 roles, Cottontail and Flopsy.
Oh.
Yes. They are very cute. It's been a wonderful process. It's just great to, also as an actor, it's just great to play for the kids. Because the kids, they just want to tell you everything. Like they want to talk to you. They want to express when you ask them something, they want to give you an answer. They really engage with whatever they have in front.
Yeah.
So it's really great it's a learning experience as well, because as an actor you have to really keep your focus. Like you have like hundreds of kids like having opinions about what's happening to the character and wanting to tell those opinions and share those opinions out loud with everybody. Uh-huh. So you have to keep your focus as an actor. But it's wonderful because they want you to be big. They want you to talk to them. They want you to just engage with them. And just seeing that is great. And also being part of a production that has that is a big production. Like the budget is you can see the set is beautiful. The costumes are great. the lights, the sounds, like is just wonderful. And I always think like, oh, I wish when I was a kid I would have had this kind of theater or exposure to theater
like this,
which is something wonderful that you have in this country, because in countries like mine you won't see that level of production unless it's like a show that is coming from somewhere and
like passing through town.
Yes, but it's not even like a play. It's like some kind of like, I don't know, exhibition with dinosaurs and big things, or like, I don't know, huge costumes that they travel all over the world. You don't see these kind of plays for kids.
Yeah.
With this level of production,
right?
And so like produced with so much care for them, and hopefully they will become the new audiences, because that's what theater needs right now. New audiences, because people are not going to see theater. And that's one of my big questions about Seattle in particular, is like there is so much money in this city. Like you have these big tech companies,
right?
And I wonder, why are people who work in all these great huge companies not interested in going and see theater? And is it like the companies are not doing a great job at like getting to them and letting them know that things are happening? Or is it just that they are not interested? Even if you give them free tickets to go and see, whether they like it or not, they just don't have the curiosity to it. And I wonder how much of it is what technology is doing to us.
Very good point.
And I think that's also another reason why like staying here as an artist is a struggle, because there is really no culture here. Like theater is very little what is now left. And what else? I don't know. I remembered I lived in Toronto years ago when I went to learn English. And I remember like seeing there, in particular in the summer, but like seeing like there were like every neighborhood had like huge festivals with things on the street, and like shows and food and activities and people walking on the street, and downtown the same thing. But here none of that happens, and I blame the tech companies and the demographics, and all the tech workers. They have like huge salaries, and artists, like you can live in a city that it has become so expensive to pay rent, which people who work at the tech companies, they have that money to pay rent, but artists don't. So you have to leave. And the thing is, like a culture, a society, a city without art and without humanities
and culture, without culture
is I think empty, and also is the reason why people feel so isolated, why there is so much depression, why there is so much anxiety, because most people are just coding somewhere,
right? And that's so many of us in our work right now, right? So many of us. And you're engaged and you're sucked into the matrix, and you forget about the reality, well, our reality around you, surrounding you.
Yes. So I mean, all these companies that have brought so many jobs and have done a lot to the economy, to help the economy, I hope that somehow all those people can be attracted to go to see theater. Or like culture in general, just not theater.
Thank you for talking about this and mentioning that. It's such a true perspective.
I mean, even if I think of like, for example, like the productions that Ese Teatro has done, it's such a struggle sometimes to bring audiences.
It very much is. You're
Even
right.
like for like you invite them, like you tell them, like
you mentioned, giving free tickets at this point. You're giving free tickets away,
and so how to engage people is the question that I've been thinking and I've been asking myself a lot.
and that's such a good point, because there are a couple of times where we thought, gosh, we did all that we could do to market. Like, we put it online, we send blasts out, we connect with other organizations to get us out there and bring people in, and then you start wondering, well, is it the play itself? Maybe they're not interested in that, or what is it? Is it, who knows? Is it the cost? Is it, but nowadays I feel like with theater, we're doing a lot to make sliding scales or even free and discounts, and it's not cheap to put it on these productions.
No.
It's very, and you don't have a lot of resources for one, but then the time and the commitment that everybody puts into it and doesn't get paid for it, right? So I do hope, so we've talked about, maybe having, because of what it takes so much out of all of us and what you have to put into it, we've talked about having bigger productions like every other year, right? And so this is sort of like our off year where we're working. We have small projects going on, but not having a big one. But I do hope that in the future that we're able to work with you. You're able to work with us. It would be wonderful, I think,
love
to have
that.
you. Yeah, I think we would too.
Yes, I would love that, and hopefully bring people to see things. Even if I always say, even like you don't expect to go to see theater and expect that you're gonna like it. Even if you don't like it, even if you are like upset after seeing a play, even if you are like, because many times I go to see plays and I'm like, that was horrible, and and that is fine.
Yes,
it's fine. I think if you feel something, whatever it is, if you feel something, then the mission is accomplished.
Yeah.
That you feel something. Whatever it is, if it made you feel sad or it made you feel like, oh my God, I'm so excited. Just don't expect that you're to go to see something, that something has to be good.
Yeah.
Like, just be open to feel something. Even if you're upset and you felt that you wasted like 2 hours of your life or an hour and a half, even if it's that, just open yourself to see things, because I think that's gonna it's like when going to like me going to another country, coming here, there is no way I could have like dimension or see the world in a different way if I didn't get out of my system. The same when you go to see something.
Yeah.
There is no way that you can expose yourself to have other thoughts, to meet other people, to get surrounded by other people that are not your coworkers, if you don't go out and see things.
Right. And expose yourself to different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Iveliz. I think we're running up short on our time here. But I just want to thank you again for giving us this time to interview you and learn about you and the work, and talk about the industry and your background. So this has been really rich for me, and I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm always like open to talk and to share whatever I can share. Sometimes I feel like whatever your field is, whatever you do in life, like I think you lose the perspective, or you forget that not everybody does the same thing that you do, and whatever you can offer or talk about is something that new for somebody else.
Oh, yes.
Like if I ask you about your job, like I have no idea, and all that is new for me.
Yeah.
And you might think sometimes like, oh, but whatever, what I'm doing is boring, whatever.
Yeah.
People are not interested.
Yeah.
And then you forget that, oh, all the things that I just talked to you about are things that I just keep to myself. If somebody doesn't ask me, then I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Thank you.